tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, we got a lot of comments on all of our content, which, again, you can leave yours at Craig Hoffman is the best place if you want to get your comment read in this segment. We had Linnell on the show yesterday for Overreaction Tuesday, and there was a wide variety of feedback on Linnell's takes. Most of them, the comments on Sam Howell and Linnell's proclamation that Washington has definitely found their franchise quarterback a whopping 3 games into his NFL career, 3 starts into his NFL career. Frontline 205 says, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but this dude is drinking the Kool-Aid hard. Meanwhile, on the other side, PCC 1901 says, is it too soon? At this point, it's too late. We could have a Drake reference there. If you're reading this, it's too late.
It's too late.
It's too late. I'm just throwing that out there. Did you see that there was another team that put Drake lyrics in press conferences? It was Tampa. Baker had like 3 or 4. Someone else did. And then someone from Fox Sports did it. Was like, oh, I can do this too. And his were like very clearly scripted and terribly executed. And I was like, come on, man. Don't make fun of the bit if you can't do it better.
Are people copying the Commanders?
I don't know that the Commanders originally came up with it.
I'm not saying that we did, but all I'm saying is we did, the lyrics thing, the Beyonce thing. And then I saw the Eagles, their media team asked the players if the NFL is scripted. And we already did that too.
I mean, that's been an ongoing bit.
Oh, okay.
I think Travis Kelce's got the best bit of all. He's just dating Taylor Swift. So,
that too.
Forget the lyrics. and then we got our guy, Ian Eagle, talking about Travis Kelce finding blank space in the end zone. Now, that's how you do it. By the way, I did follow up. For those of you that listened to the end of the show on Monday, we said we're going to have to investigate. Was that, did Noah Eagle feed Ian, his dad, the lyric? I texted Ian, and I was like, we might have to have you on the show to do this. And he's like, there's nothing to investigate. I'm just a Swiftie.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there goes the segment idea, Ian.
Did you see Jason Kelce confirm the rumors, though?
Yes, he kind of did on WIP today, which is very silly. Jason, your podcast is very good and very successful. If you're going to confirm the biggest rumor in the celebrity world,
exactly,
don't do it do it on a radio show, obviously. Don't do it on a radio show. Do it on your own podcast, you moron. I'm just kidding, Jason. You're definitely not a moron. Jason Kelce, not a moron. It was just not why am I doing... Let's keep going with the comments.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Back to the comments we go. And thoughts on Sam Howell, franchise quarterback. Some more nuanced thoughts besides Linnell's brilliant. What's this guy smoking? This from Berrien Spring High School BU 4604. That is the longest username that we have ever had a comment on, or comment from. I'm super optimistic about Sam Howell, but I'm not ready to call him the franchise quarterback yet. For one, defensive coordinators only have 3 games worth of tape on him. Second, he hasn't had a huge setback yet, like a 4-interception game. We haven't seen him experience a game that rocks some quarterbacks' confidence to the core. I think it is worth pointing out that part of the reason you haven't seen that is because he doesn't get fazed by singular mistakes. Like the idea that Sam Howell is going to spiral in the way that a lot of quarterbacks, and especially young quarterbacks, do, seems to be something that's not going to happen. That doesn't mean he won't have a multi-mistake game. I just don't see, unless it gets really, really bad, him spiraling into a pit of no confidence and that affecting his play. That is one of the admirable traits. But he will have a game where he gets picked off 3 times because it's the NFL and it happens to everyone. How do you bounce back? I know Josh Allen didn't have a very good week 1. He had 4 really, really bad plays, and they lost because of it. He came back last week and he was MVP, favorite Josh Allen. That's who that guy is. It's why he is who he is. And Sam seems to have some of that mental makeup. But I do think the defensive coordinator side of this is my biggest holdup in trying to project Sam Howell's future. It is one thing to have 1 or 2 games, 3 games, 4 games as a flash in the pan. Do you have it when they know what makes you struggle? And as he gets more tape out there, more defensive coordinators are going to say, this is how you beat this kid, and they're going to make him do it. And if you can't turn your weakness into at least something passable, or if not into a strength, your leash in this league is not going to be very long. That's what we don't know about Sam Howell yet. But things can change quickly. This comment, who I apologize to whoever made it, because I absolutely deleted their name in the notes. So sorry, good thought, good comment here. Nobody knew the Eagles and Hurts would do what they did last year. Hell, they was going after Russell Wilson last year. That is true. The Eagles were trying to get Russ just like the Commanders were. You know who holds onto the ball a long time? Mahomes. He runs around a lot, but he holds the ball too long as well. He isn't either one of those QBs just throwing context. And I don't even think Hurts is all that great. He's good, and it's only been 1 year. Most media have crowned him as elite, and he's not. So I think Howell will be fine with more experience. I'm not going to hate on Jalen Hurts. All he's done is have an MVP season, go to the Super Bowl, play exceptionally well outside of like 2 plays in the Super Bowl, and then come back and start the next season 2-0. So, yeah, I'm not here for the Jalen Hurts slander. And you know who else thinks he's elite? The Eagles, because they paid him $200 and something million. And I don't think that they have any misgivings about doing that. But Mahomes, yeah, he holds the ball for a long time, but he understands concepts and he understands protections, and he can get out, and rarely does it actually cost him. But he's learned, and it's gotten quicker over time. Mahomes throws a lot quicker now than he did at the beginning of his career because he knows defenses are sitting way deep and they're giving him short intermediate stuff, so he takes it. But I think the Hurts point is a good one, not that Sam is Jalen, as this commenter does say, but because it shows you how quickly the narrative can change from, hey, this guy's young and inexperienced, to, wow, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. I'm not saying Sam's going to get there by the end of the year by any stretch, but it is a point that we just don't know. But here's the other thing that I would caution people about when you have that kind of optimism, which is you don't remember the guys that failed because they failed and they fade from memory. So, like, yeah, some diehards or people that have looked at this harder, there's plenty of guys who have had 1 or 2 good games in the league and it just doesn't wind up working out long term. You forget about them because then they're gone. They disappear. What you remember is the Bradys. You remember is the Russell Wilsons, the Kirk Cousins, these late round picks that work out on varying levels from, whatever Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins is, or Dak Prescott, up to the greatest of all time as a 6th rounder. You don't forget all the other dudes, the Brady 6 dudes drafted in front of Tom Brady. None of them had very good careers. Like, that just is what it is. And so you forget those guys, they fade from memory, and you think that the one that was successful is the path to repeat, as opposed to them being an exception to the rule. And it's too early to know whether Sam is a lesson to be learned by the NFL about scouting certain traits, or another long list of guys who will be a flash in the pan. If I had to bet, I think he's playing 10 years plus in the league. I think he's really good. But it is too early to say that definitively for me. As for one of the 3 data points that we have, our guy Black Rick 3166 said on our interview with Nikki Javala last week on Friday that we posted up on YouTube. He said, I'm confused as to why so many of you podcast guys always referring to the Cowboys last year and the loss to Sam as they had nothing to play for. How about the division title? How about the fact that they kept starters in for 4 quarters, first round bye? Which one of those aren't important? Anthony, do you know what my first response to Black Rick was when he said, what's up with all you podcast guys?
You're listening to a podcast, so aren't you a podcast guy as well?
No, I said that I'm a radio guy, not a podcast guy. Although I do have a podcast.
Yeah, that too.
But
don't these also go to, well, both things can be true, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm a radio and podcast guy, not just a podcast guy. You really just kind of ruined the joke there.
I'm sorry. I was being technical.
Goodbye, Anthony. Kicked Anthony out of the stream. You can still hear him, though. Whatever that's worth. As for the substance of it, it was pretty clear in that game that like Dallas wasn't in it. They had an off day, whatever. I mean, the Eagles, they knew the Eagles were probably going to beat the Giants, and from what I remember, that game wasn't particularly close late. Like, I think the Eagles got up early, and also it was a funky game where there wasn't a lot of stress on Howell. Like, they get a turnover, Howell completes the ball to Terry scores, and like there's never a point in that game where he's pressed. And so even if the Cowboys did have something to play for, it's not a very indicative sample type for future NFL success compared to the Arizona game and the Denver game, for instance, where there was extremely high stress situations that Sam had to play in, and he played very well in them. So, yes, Dallas had nothing to play for. I guess that is a bit of an overstatement, but it was very clear that they weren't super mentally engaged in that game, and also the way it played out was very low stakes. Which kind of changes the dynamics of the evaluation when you're trying to project forward. Last Sam comment is from Exit 1792. Pretty funny that our last comment on this topic is from someone named Exit, but at Exit 1792 says, I don't really like how you're dismissive of him being premier or great or Hall of Fame. Not saying he can or can't, but we should all be optimistic and absolutely hope for the best. Anthony, I'm gonna give you another shot here. You know what I said to this comment? We should be optimistic. What did I say to that one?
We should be optimistic.
No, I said who's we? Which I thought was a pretty good snappy response.
Yeah.
Because my job isn't to be an optimist, and whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic does not impact Sam Howell's performance at all. Like, my job is to call it like I see it. And I have covered this league now for the better part of a decade, and I see what happens as defensive coordinators get tape, and you have to continue doing it against tougher opponents and certain matchups or coverage structures. Some quarterbacks are really good against two high safeties. Some are good against single high. Some are good against man. Some are good against zone. Certain fronts might bother certain quarterbacks in a certain way. Like, there's just a lot of factors here, and the dude has started 3 games. So I'm not saying that he can't be that. I'm just merely playing the odds because, Anthony, if you had to bet your entire life savings on Sam Howell being a Hall of Famer or not, which one would you bet on?
Him not being a Hall of Famer?
Of course, because it's really hard to make the Hall of Fame. Like, the list of guys that enter the league and then go to the Hall of Fame is like that big. It is not just the best of the best, it's the best of the best of the best. Like, you can make a couple All-Pros and a couple of Pro Bowls, and you don't wind up in the Hall of Fame. The the Pro Football Hall of Fame is the hardest Hall of Fame to get into. So me saying, like, hey, some of y'all can relax. It's not like he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Shoot, maybe he will be. Maybe Sam Howell will wind up in the Hall of Fame. And they'll play this clip in his Hall of Fame, week leading up to, and they'll be like, oh, the people doubted him, and I'll be the goober in the box talking into a microphone about how Sam Howell's not going to be a Hall of Famer. That's not a judge of his talent. That is a judge of math and ratios to say that it is unlikely he will achieve that level, because of course it's unlikely that he's going to reach that level. And if he does, incredible. He's got a ton of traits that suggest he has a chance to be excellent. But that doesn't make for as clean of a clip in his future Hall of Fame video. So future people 30 years from now, put this bleeping part into the clip. It's not where I thought that would end, Anthony, but this is where we are. You don't want to talk to the future people?
I'd rather not.
Okay. You're just going to sit there in your box quietly?
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll dismiss you then. All right. Anthony will be back next time I need him. Goodbye, Anthony. All right. Michael Phillips was on the show on Monday. He's on every single Monday at 5 p.m. for Not My Beat. Of course, you can check him out on the on 910 The Fan down in Richmond, which you can listen to on the free Odyssey app. And we talked about Eric Bieniemy, and Michael had said during the interview that he thinks that Eric Bieniemy has already proven exactly why he was brought to Washington. And this is, again, from the Washington side. We got a couple of comments saying, like, how dare you disrespect him? Like, he should have never needed this. It's like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that Washington looked out, saw the candidates, and was like, give me that dude. Please come here and fixed us, and we have that has been successful from the Washington side. But Renji26 says, in terms of, hey, EB might be successful and then leave for a head coaching job, that doesn't make sense. Are you guys saying you're okay with him leaving and living up to his potential on another team? I am not in favor of that. To be incredibly clear, like, I don't want to be flippant about Ron Rivera's job, but if I am Josh Harris and at the end of the year, Eric Bieniemy comes to me and says, I have a head coaching offer in insert team here. If you offer me your head coaching job, and I don't think AB would do this to Ron, but for whatever it's worth, or he says like, hey, I've got this, and Josh goes, I will make you the head coach here. We'll find a front office position for Ron. I do not want to lose you. I will match the money. I will actually give you more money to stay here and be the head coach. If I am Josh Harris, I do that. My only fear is that he's going to say no, and then that is super awkward with Ron Rivera. And if they've both done enough that I still want them, like, that could get a little bit awkward. But I think it is inarguable that Eric Bieniemy has been massively impactful on this team in ways that go far beyond his duties as offensive coordinator, and, assistant head coach title being what it is. Like, I guess it fits into that, but I normally that's a pretty nominal thing. It's not something that has actual impact. But Eric completely remade their offseason. Like, he's the one who got them into the position that they are now. And yes, Jack's doing a great job schematically on the defensive side, but his team is in better shape, or his unit is in better shape, because they had to practice at Eric Bieniemy's tempo. And again, this is not trying to put down Rivera, who did hire him and deserves that credit, but like, if your credit is hiring the guy that does the work, and then I get the choice of keeping the guy who did the hiring or keeping the guy who's doing the work, give me the guy who's doing the work. And, again, that's kind of the setup that it is right now. Ron deserves a lot of credit for being willing to change. But at the end of the day, Eric's the one who brought the ideas. Eric's the one that did that stuff. And if it comes down to it, I do not want to lose him. So no, I am not saying that. It's just an understanding that that could happen. Colin Whitby, 8219, says, EB did change direction in the second half of this game. Pass heavy out of the pocket, became more running and screens to counter the Denver pass rush, and it worked perfectly. It absolutely did. And I think Sam Fortier, who joined us about 25 minutes ago, made a really good point that it was also partly because of the score. Like, their ability to get that Logan Thomas touchdown and then get another field goal after the sick John Bates throw at the end of the half brings that back to a more even type of score, which allows the Commanders to be more balanced. They had to chase the game a little bit, but I also think the skew wasn't as bad as it should have been, or was worse than it should have been in that first half. There's a lot of RPO call, and EB got away from that more in the second half. Called some straight handoffs, or just told Sam, like, we're calling the RPO, but you need to do the R, not the P, in the run pass option. That's what RPO stands for, if those of you that didn't know. And there was a couple times in the first half that Sam should have handed the ball off, and he didn't. And that's going to affect your skew. But sometimes as an offensive coordinator, you just got to go, well, if he's going to pull it and throw these bubble screens and slants that aren't there, we need to make an adjustment, because I would like to run the football. And you just call inside zone or halfback dive or whatever versions of those that you're wanting to call when you use your language, not the language that I use in Madden. All right, some thoughts on the linebackers from Rogue615. They should switch in and out Hudson and Barton. I thought Hudson earned the spot this year from our last game. Maybe he hasn't looked as good in practice. Hudson's not a natural linebacker, though. I forget what they called his position at Michigan. It was kind of a hybrid. He played some linebacker, some safety, but he was mostly a safety at University of Michigan, and he's bulked up, and he has looked better as of late. Preseason was excellent. Training camp was excellent. Dallas game was excellent. But at the end of the day, like, is he big enough and good enough to carry an NFL starting linebacker snap count? And also, the thing that I can't wrap my mind around, and is going to be an interesting question for Jack tomorrow. I don't know if he'll answer it, but I'm going to try my best to ask it in a way that he will, is, Jamin seems to be playing very well. Is that something that could carry over to the middle linebacker spot versus, is he being successful because he's in that weak side linebacker spot and there's certain responsibilities that aren't on his plate? And the idea of switching him and Cody and putting in someone like Khalik would actually mess that up. So it's very easy to just be like, player A is playing better than player B, switch them and sub out player A. But that ignores the factors that go into the success of and failure of all of those players. And nothing is simple when it comes to evaluating those things in the NFL. Last but not least, this from our pick 6 last week from Alicia Fisher, 4889, who says, with Logan Thomas, Jacoby Brissett, Curtis Samuel, and Kendall Fuller all having their deals expire and the void years being added to Charles Leno's contract, do you think it's possible that they find a way to extend Montez Sweat and Chase Young and franchise tag Cam Curl or another form of that, or is it too far out there to think they can keep them all? I think they will find a way to keep at least 2, but I want to see all of them hit their primes together and watch this be an insane defense for the next 5 years. I think this is becoming a greater reality by the day. The reason is, if Sam Howell is it at quarterback, then you don't have to pay your quarterback for another couple of years. And at that point, like, John Allen's deal will be up and you can revisit whether you want to keep him or, is he coming towards the end of his career? I know that sounds crazy because it feels like he's still young, but he's in his late 20s at a position that you don't play till you're 35 very often. You can restructure Duran. You can restructure Terry. You will have to pay like Jahan and Emmanuel Forbes and, all these other young players that are still on rookie deals. And you got to have to figure out after the year what to do with the running back position because AG is up. Can you find another Antonio Gibson type of player? Probably in the draft. That's the nature of the running back position. But he's a pretty unique skill set in terms of his ability to catch. He runs a 4.3, all that stuff. So long story short, not having to pay a quarterback for a long time would help immensely in that. And I do think that Sweat, my guess is still that Sweat and Curl get long-term deals. And if they can get that done quickly, or even one of them this season, especially if it's Sweat, that opens up the door to franchise tag Chase and then kick that down the road another year. So, yes, is the short term, or the shortest answer to that. It is possible. Is that the best use of resources? I don't know. But if this defense is dominant this year, I would definitely think that it's not the worst use of resources either. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980 each and every day, 4 to 7 p.m. We stream live on YouTube and on the free Odyssey app. And then we post the best of the show on demand for you on YouTube at the Team 980 and at Craig Hoffman. You leave comments there, and then we read the best ones here every Wednesday at 5:30. That is Never Read the Comments.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.